My name is Nathan Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and I live in a quiet town outside Nashville, Tennessee, with my wife, Laura. People often believe losing someone happens only once. They think the pain ends after the funeral. But that isn't true. Sometimes you lose the same person over and over through memories, old photographs, and empty places they once filled with life. For me, that person was my father. His name was Edward Hayes. He wasn't rich, but he worked harder than anyone I have ever known. He owned a small woodworking shop and spent most of his life building furniture with his own hands. His palms were rough from years of work, but he was the kindest man I ever met. When I was a boy, every Saturday belonged to us. We repaired the old family house together, painted fences, planted flowers, and built small shelves that still stood in the hallway years later. Whenever we finished a project, Dad would smile and say, "A house is built with wood. A home is built with love." I never forgot those words. 5 years ago, everything changed. My father became seriously ill. The doctors did everything they could, but his condition continued to worsen. 2 days before he passed away, he asked everyone to leave his hospital room except me. He held my hand weakly. "Nathan," he whispered, "promise me you'll take care of our family home." I felt tears filling my eyes. "I promise." A faint smile appeared on his face. "Every room carries our story." Those were the last words he ever spoke to me. After his funeral, keeping that promise became part of my life. The house wasn't valuable to most people. The roof leaked after heavy rain, the kitchen looked outdated, and the porch needed repairs almost every year. But to me, it was priceless. Every wall reminded me of my parents. Every floorboard carried childhood memories. Whenever life became difficult, I drove there, sat on the front porch, and felt close to my father again. When Laura and I got married, she understood how much that house meant to me. At least, that's what I believed. During our first year of marriage, she often came with me. We cleaned the rooms together, trimmed the garden, and even repainted the front fence. One afternoon she smiled and said, "I understand why you love this place. It feels peaceful." Hearing those words made me happy. I believed she respected my father's memory. For several years, everything seemed fine. Then our lives became more expensive. Prices increased. Laura started talking about buying a larger house, replacing our car, and taking luxury vacations she saw online. I worked longer hours as a financial analyst, but nothing seemed enough anymore. One evening during dinner, she looked at me seriously. "Why are we still keeping your father's house?" I looked up. "What do you mean?" "We never live there. It's not just a house." She sighed. "It's sitting empty." I quietly shook my head. It was my father's final wish. She placed her fork on the table. "Do you know how much money we could get if we sold it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I made him a promise." Laura looked at me for a long moment before saying something that hurt more than she could imagine. "Your father isn't here anymore." The room became silent. I couldn't finish my dinner. The next morning, I drove to the old house. I walked slowly through every room, touching the walls my father had painted and the wooden staircase we had built together years earlier. "I kept my promise," I whispered. As I stepped outside, our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Turner, waved at me. "It's good to see you again, Nathan. It's good to see you too." Then her smile slowly disappeared. "I thought your wife already told you." A strange feeling settled in my stomach. "Told me what?" She looked confused. "Those men were here yesterday." "What men?" "They were measuring the property." My heartbeat became faster. "They said the paperwork was almost finished for the new owners." I stared at her in disbelief. "New owners?" She nodded. "I assumed you finally decided to sell." For several seconds, I couldn't speak. I had never signed any documents. I had never agreed to sell my father's house. So why was everyone acting as though it already belonged to someone else? With shaking hands, I hurried back to my car. Every mile home felt longer than the last. Only one question filled my mind. If I hadn't sold my father's home, who had? I drove home as fast as I could. Laura was sitting in the living room when I walked in. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up calmly. "I know why you're upset. You tried to sell my father's house." She didn't deny it. "I thought it was the best decision for us." I stared at her. "You used the power of attorney I trusted you with." She lowered her eyes. "I only wanted a better future." I shook my head. A better future should never be built on broken promises. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I quietly said, "You didn't just risk losing my father's house. You destroyed the trust between us." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry." I wanted those words to fix everything, but they couldn't. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. Thankfully, the sale had not been finalized. Because Laura had used the power of attorney beyond the purpose we had agreed on, the transaction was stopped before ownership could be transferred. When I told Laura, she didn't argue. She simply nodded, knowing how close she had come to taking away the one thing my father had asked me to protect. Months later, we chose to end our marriage peacefully. It wasn't because of the house. It was because trust, once broken that deeply, could no longer hold us together. I kept my father's home. Every spring, I repaint the porch and plant fresh flowers beside the front steps, just as we used to. Sometimes I sit there with a cup of coffee and remember his words. "A house is built with wood. A home is built with love." Now I finally understand what he meant. A home is never protected by money. It is protected by honesty, loyalty, and the people who choose to keep their promises. And those are things no one should ever sell.